Greetings, YouTube! The Doctor is in. Dr. Urias Papers here, coming at you with another commentary on Dungeons and Dragons and Critical Role and a few other things. So, we are going to talk about the announcement that came out today from Critical Role about Campaign 4 that was made by Matt Mercer, Travis Willingham, and Marisha Ray. And then we're going to do some analysis. So what system are they going to use? And then my answer or my theory is going to come after that. So a lot to go over, a lot to talk about. Stay tuned and don't go away. All right, let's get into this. Let's take a look at this video. This is the announcement. It is 16 minutes long. We are only going to go to the part where they make the announcement of what system they're going to use. And then we're going to switch over and I'm going to give you my theory as to why they're picking that system. And then we're going to go through some evidence behind that theory. So let's go ahead and start out with this here. And we'll get a little bit of my reaction to this too. So this is their new set that they're going to be using. All the sets always look cool. They always go all out. Great table. Look at that table. Just fantastic set. It's in their warehouse they've got. And love the table. Note the microphones and everything they have and the AV equipment. And he's got that great screen there. And here they are. Okay. There's Matt Mercer and Marisha Ray and Travis Willingham.
We got fabric.
Read the scrolls.
They got a desk.
There's arcane writing on this.
What's this little pinky wine? You'll just never get old.
Shit.
Yeah. We got a set.
We got a
guys.
set,
man.
We do.
They got a set.
Yeah.
Better than ever.
I know. Look, Campaign 4. You guys, it's been coming for a very long time. Obviously, it takes a long time. It takes a while to put something like this together. And the whole team over here at Critical Role has been so hard at work, as you can see. I mean, even before Campaign 3 came to a close, we knew that like whatever we did would involve some very big changes, and honestly gives us like a great opportunity to shake things up.
Yeah, truth, definitely.
So here it comes. This is going to be the announcement.
Of course, people want to know Daggerheart or D&D.
Yeah.
Daggerheart or D&D. So it comes down to those two choices. So let's see what they put out.
And from the bottom of our hearts, we say both.
Oh, Matt, that's such a vanilla corporate Hollywood answer. Both, but it's not going to be both. So what is it really going to be?
Both! Age of Umbra and more campaign frames and Daggerheart content are on the horizon. And Thursday nights, all 8 founders will be returning for Campaign 4, which will still be nerdy-ass voice actors playing Dungeons and Dragons.
All right, there you go. There's the announcement. Campaign 4, Thursday nights. Matt Mercer is not going to be running it. Brandon Mulligan is going to be running it. That will be Dungeons and Dragons. So the question now is, why are they not choosing their own system? Versus, why are they choosing Dungeons and Dragons? My theory is that Daggerheart is not even remotely close to as popular as Dungeons and Dragons. And I also think that Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast had something to do with this. Look at that new set. Look at all that new money that they poured in there. So I know they got a lot of cash, but I think that there is more on the horizon and more that meets the eye with this. So let's take a look. Let's listen a little bit more, and then we're going to take a look at a couple of pieces of evidence for this.
And this time with 2024 rules.
There's another clue. D&D 2024 rules. There's another clue. Hasbro desperately needs to sell Dungeons & Dragons 2024 material because, as we know, the 2024 has not sold as well as 5th edition 2014. Not even close. Not even close. I hear what you're going to say from this video that, Doc, you're wrong. It sold great. No, it has not. There is no indication that 2024 has sold even close, even 50% to what 2014 sold. So that's another clue. They're going to be using the 2024 rules. So let's keep listening a little bit longer.
Distinction, yes, because here at Critical Role, we play all sorts of games, not just the ones that we make. And we have to say the response to our now 3-month-old baby contribution to the TTRPG space has been beyond humbling. We are so thrilled and excited, but we also have so much more Daggerheart actual play coming from partners like Dungeons & Daddy.
So they're still going to keep pushing Daggerheart stuff, but we are now going to be watching on Thursday nights 2024 Dungeons & Dragons and not Daggerheart. So let's get into my first piece of evidence. All right, so my first piece of evidence for this theory that that is the Critical Role folks, are in cahoots, just going to use that word. They are in a business relationship with Wizards of the Coast of some kind, and the reason why they are putting 2024 Dungeons & Dragons, because they could do 2014 Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition again. That is still an extremely popular game. Matter of fact, a lot of stuff that's still coming out on the market is 5th edition 2014. It's Adventures and Things. There really is not a lot of 2024 stuff that is being put out on the market other than what is coming from Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. So, yesterday, Professor DM, and if you don't know who he is, I have his video up here. I'll put a link below so you can get to his channel. He put out a video looking at the most popular games at Gen Con this year, which was in Indianapolis. It was the last week and kind of the first few days of August. And he's just only looking at the number of tables that were run at Gen Con. But why is that important? It's because Gen Con is the largest gaming convention in the world. They consistently have 50 or 60,000 people that show up, probably more, that come to Indianapolis every year to play games, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of games. Role-playing games, board games, miniature games, card games, you name it, it's there. So he goes through the top 20 games, the top 20 games based off of the number of events that they offered at Gen Con. Now, this is not the number of seats that were sold for these, but this is the number of events. And you're going to see with this how different Daggerheart is from Dungeons & Dragons. So let's listen here at this first part, because he's going to tell us what place out of 20 that Daggerheart came into.
Now, number 11, we have a tie. It is Cypher System and Daggerheart, both with 80 events.
All right. So this is Cypher System,
of course, from Monty Cook
80
Games, and
events.
Daggerheart, the Upstart game, just released. And keep in mind, when these events were planned, there were...
And here's Daggerheart. And Daggerheart... So, and he says, keep in mind that, when these events were released, Daggerheart was only out as a PDF. So that may have factored into it. But there were only 80 events for Daggerheart at Gen Con versus a number of events for Dungeons & Dragons. And it was number 11 out of... Okay, we're going to listen to what he has to say about the top 2 games. Now, keep in mind that Daggerheart was number 11 at 80 events. So here we go. What are the top 2 games?
Number 2, Pathfinder.
Pathfinder. And how many tables did Pathfinder have at Gen Con?
With 538 events.
538 events versus Daggerheart's 80. So that is a lot. I mean, that's literally 7 times more than what Daggerheart had at Gen Con.
Now, I know what you're going to ask. Did you distinguish between Pathfinder 1
This is
and
mainly
2?
Pathfinder
I
2.
did combine both editions, but even if I separated them, they would still rank number 2 and 3. I did a video of...
So keep that in mind. Pathfinder 1 and 2 would be ranked 2 and 3, whereas Daggerheart was ranked 11. So he's going to go through the top one now.
About the reception to Pathfinder 2 was a little soft. Obviously, the LGL changed that. Pathfinder 2 sold.
Yeah, Pathfinder 2, which I do play a lot of, did get more popular, way more popular after the OGL scandal in 2023.
Out, and people have switched to Pathfinder in huge numbers. Props to Derek Mona and Paizo for their outstanding legacy. And finally, we're at number 1.
Who do you think is number 1?
Krull, fantasy role-playing.
That's not number 1.
Just kidding. It's Dungeons & Dragons. Is there any doubt that D&D would rank number 1? And if you're asking, well, what about different editions of the game? I put them all together. But even if we separated them, Dungeons & Dragons would still be far and away the most popular role-playing game at Gen Con with 1,307 events. Now,
and he's talking about 5th edition, 2024, probably some 3rd edition, maybe some 4th edition thrown in there. But that was 1,300 events. 1,300 events, which is more than 10 times. I mean, Daggerheart was, if you multiplied by Daggerheart events by 10, it'd be 800. And it still wouldn't be as much. And even if every table for Daggerheart was full, so that is, we got 80 tables. You got 6 players at each table. That would be 480 total. You still wouldn't get, if you just average 2 players, because some of these events are canceled and things like that. If you only averaged 2 players per table for Dungeons & Dragons events, it would still be 5 times as many for Dungeons & Dragons as it was for Daggerheart. So that's evidence. That's piece of evidence number 1 for why Critical Role made their decision to go with Dungeons & Dragons, and particularly Dungeons & Dragons 2024, and why I think Hasbro has had their hand in this. So let's go to the piece of evidence number 2. So I'm going to actually show you some evidence from the Gen Con game menu. So let's take a look at that. All right, here is the Gen Con game menu, and you can search for by game type in this. I went ahead and went in here and just put in Daggerheart. It's one of the lists. You can't type it in. It's a drop-down window. It's all in alphabetical order. You got to find which one is there. So I found Daggerheart. It's the role-playing game. In here, it's not 80 events. It's 77. So I don't know how he got to 80, but it is pretty close. Says it found 77. These are all concluded because Gen Con's over with. So that is how many were in here for Daggerheart. You can't really see how many people were sitting at each table, although I did say to give me the sold out events. I don't think that was every one of them. That might just be the sold out ones, and there might have been like 3 tables that weren't sold out. So there were at least, I think, 77 sold out events for Daggerheart. All right, and then if you go into Dungeons & Dragons, here is the list for Dungeons & Dragons. Now, this probably includes anything that's Dungeons & Dragons. 3rd edition, 4th edition, 2nd edition, 5th edition, 2024 includes, but it is Dungeons & Dragons, and it shows the power of that brand. And as I said, I'm pretty sure this is events that have sold out. This is 1,264 events that have sold out. So if you're going by people at the tables, way more than Daggerheart, way more. So again, this shows how much more popular Dungeons & Dragons is than Daggerheart. And just for funsies, I put in the Pathfinder list. Here it is, Pathfinder game. This probably includes 1st edition and 2nd edition. And it is 473 events here. And just, I know Daggerheart hadn't come out as the hardbound book when these got scheduled, but neither had Starfinder, And Starfinder, Dungeons & Dragons was number 1, Pathfinder was number 2, and Starfinder was number 3, and Starfinder hadn't come out yet. And Starfinder, I think, had like 300-some events. And that's still way more than Daggerheart. So that just shows you how much more popular these types of games are than Daggerheart. And our final piece of evidence, and if you don't know what this website is, this is Google Trends, and you can go in and search key terms within Google Trends to see how popular they are. And let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. There you go. And so I put 4 terms in here. I put the Pathfinder role-playing game. I put Daggerheart as a search term. I put Dungeons & Dragons as a game. And I put Daggerheart core set in here as a term. So you can actually find these. When you type these in, it will appear. And then you put it in. You can do the comparison. So this is worldwide over the last 12 months. All categories for web searches. So this includes everything like YouTube. You can actually go up here and drop this down, and it'll be like YouTube search. Like we could look at YouTube search, and it basically gives us the same thing. So let's go back to web search. And the yellow line here is Dungeons & Dragons. And this is the game term. And it will give you a number from 1 to 100 based off of where Google thinks. And this is good for comparisons. So whereas like today, for this last week, Daggerheart had a 2. Dungeons & Dragons had an 84. The Daggerheart core set had less than a 1. And Pathfinder had an 11. So if we're comparing this, Dungeons & Dragons were searched 42 times more than Daggerheart. And Pathfinder was searched 5 times more than Daggerheart worldwide for this last week. So that just shows that that brand is much more popular. Now let's take a look at the US. And it's very similar. It's a very similar situation. If we look at the last week here, 79 for Dungeons & Dragons. It's a 2 for Daggerheart. Daggerheart core set is less than 1, and Pathfinder is a 10. So essentially, the US is very indicative of the rest of the world. So we've got these 4 things. So I think based off of the evidence that Professor DM put out, the evidence of the search through Gen Con, which is the largest gaming convention in the world, and the things that are represented there really represent what's going on in the gaming fan base. And then through Google Trends, and you can see that Daggerheart's actually going down. If we just go up here, let's go back over to worldwide, and if we we remove this, and let's remove this. And you just look at these 2 things. Let's just look at Daggerheart by itself. And it'll show you over time. So it's peaked out and it's come up. And like this was right around Gen Con. So it peaked out at a 90 and then it's back down to a 67. So it's come up and down. But it is not like on a steady rise. Whereas Dungeons & Dragons kind of stays at a certain rate, but it is by far way more searched than Daggerheart. So I think based off of the searches for Daggerheart and based off of, and you can see here YouTube, it's gone down quite a bit. Based off of searches for Daggerheart versus searches for Dungeons & Dragons, based off of how many tables and events and people were sitting at tables for Dungeons & Dragons versus Daggerheart. And that's what Gen Con is willing to offer up to Matt Mercer and Daggerheart. And then the fact that they are going to be running Dungeons & Dragons 2024, I think all of those things factored in to keeping their channel going. Their channel is based off of Dungeons & Dragons. It is not based off of Daggerheart. The popularity of Critical Role is based off of Dungeons & Dragons. It is not based off of Daggerheart. They have a very small fan base that's dedicated to Daggerheart. It hasn't been around that long. They haven't built that fan base up. And they have a huge fan base that's based off of Dungeons and Dragons. So I think those things all factored into it. And I think Hasbro had a hand in this too, because they're not going to be running 5th edition. They're running 2024. So either Matt is trying to get Hasbro on board, or Hasbro is already on board and is probably paying out some money. But we'll see if they get some sponsorships from Hasbro or D&D Beyond for the 4th campaign. You can bet that that had an influence in their decisions as to what game they were going to run. All right, that is what I have for everybody today. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch everybody